Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. This is commentary, educational analysis, not legal advice. Watching or interacting with this video does not create any attorney-client relationship at all. All right. So with that said, just a little legal disclaimer I should give before each video. And even if I don't give it, it is in the description, okay? Hey, family, do you believe in the work we're doing? Does our content speak to you? Do you appreciate our in-depth legal analysis and political commentary from an African-American perspective? Do you believe it matters to our community? Then don't just watch from the sidelines. Please click that membership button and become a member of the 2% Club today. That's right, we need just 2% of our subscribers to become channel members. For just $4.99 a month, that's less than 20 cents a day, you'll help us keep creating powerful content that defends our democracy, demands justice, and develops a strong African-American community. But if you want more, at $9.99 a month, which is only 33 cents a day, you'll get access to exclusive members-only live streams, bonus content, and behind-the-scenes updates. And for just $14.99 a month, which is under 50 cents a day, our top-tier members get access to live Zoom calls, strategy sessions, and a direct voice in shaping this movement. We're not just building a YouTube channel. Folks, we're building a movement based on righteousness and justice, just what our community needs in a time of disinformation and division. So if you believe in what we're doing, click the membership button and join now. Become a member of the 2% Club today. Let's build something powerful together. Today is October 14th. Tomorrow, October 15th, the United States Supreme Court will hold oral arguments in Louisiana versus Collis, a case that could fundamentally reshape Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Now, Clarence Thomas has long sought to weaken or eliminate the Voting Rights Act. Now he's specifically looking at Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And that's the part that makes racial gerrymandering or vote dilution illegal or unconstitutional. Without Section 2, states could redraw their voting districts to just get rid of racial minorities, basically, and can do so with impunity. And that's just what Texas is currently doing. So Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law on August 6, 1965. That was 60 years ago. And for the last 30 of those 60 years, Justice Clarence Thomas has tried to destroy Section 2. Now, because Clarence Thomas has been so anti-black in his jurisprudence, some people have called him Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom. But to be clear, Uncle Tom was far better than Uncle Clarence, because Uncle Tom resisted white supremacy in his own way. He was a good man, but he fought white supremacy in his own way. Whereas Thomas, Uncle Clarence, collaborates with it and protects it, defends it. Uncle Tom, in fact, died protecting black people, whereas Uncle Clarence uses his lifetime appointment to the highest court in the country to weaken civil rights protections, and doing it at a huge profit. So in this case that I'm talking about from Louisiana, Louisiana was found to have diluted black votes under Section 2. So the state redrew its map to create a second majority black district. All right, that was the only thing to do because black population in Louisiana had increased. But the plaintiffs, the people who sued the state, they argued that remedial districts, as the one they created for blacks, is unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Clause. Now, what's so crazy about that is Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was put in place to give effect to the 15th Amendment, which says that our rights to vote should not be abridged. So 100 years later, the Voting Rights Act was signed into law so that the 15th Amendment could in fact be enforced. Yet the plaintiffs, with Clarence Thomas's agreement, believe that following Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act actually violates the Equal Protection Clause. That is crazy. On its face, just crazy. But anyway, the plaintiffs asked for a re-argument on whether Section 2, whether it actually is race conscious and it violates the Equal Protection Clause, right? Which is a part of the 14th Amendment. And they also based their argument on the 15th Amendment. So in effect, the case asks, can Congress still require race-sensitive remedies, or is Section 2 itself unconstitutional? They got this thing between the Equal Protection Clause and Section 2 and the 14th Amendment. They got it so twisted that it now hurts black people the way whites use it against us. Anyway, SCOTUS upheld the second black majority voting district, including the conservatives on the court. But Clarence Thomas was not having it. He dissented. All right, he wrote a dissenting opinion where he said that he has been fighting this for 30 years and it was time to use the Equal Protection Clause to basically finish gutting the Voting Rights Act. And once again, keep in mind, both were added to the law for our protection. And here, the only black man and the second black man to serve on the court is using one civil rights law against another one. The man argued that Congress lacks the authority to impose these kinds of remedies. He went on to say that Section 2 conflicts with the Equal Protection Clause, folks. I'm trying to get you to see how crazy that is. I mean, that is just totally bonkers to use the Equal Protection Clause to gut the last remaining provision of the Voting Rights Act. And if the court rules in his favor, if the court follows him, which I believe they will this time, it could make almost every black majority district that came about as a result of the Voting Rights Act to be in jeopardy of getting eliminated. And that will be horrible. Now, Section 2 outlaws voting practices that disadvantages voters based on race, whether intentionally or by effect. Now, after Shelby County versus Holder, after Shelby County versus Holder, that was when they invalidated Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. And after they invalidated Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 became really important. It became the primary tool to challenge discriminatory maps and voter suppression and at-large systems meant to silence black voters. In fact, there was a previous case about Section 2, the Bronovich case, where SCOTUS weakened Section 2 already, so it's already weak. Thomas want to finish killing it. Now, the plaintiffs used the Gingell's framework to show racially polarized voting is a barrier and a remedy. All right, the Louisiana redrawn itself is now under attack. Opponents claim the remedy is, Again, unconstitutional. For what reason? You got it, the Equal Protection Clause. So now Thomas and the conservative bloc, they're arguing and most likely will get rid of Section 2 on the basis that it's a race-conscious district, which is impermissible based on the Equal Protection Clause. Now, this doesn't surprise me because Clarence Thomas's record and his philosophy are really clear. He has not made any bones about not liking the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, or any of the rest of it, although he has benefited from all of it. So yes, in his opinion, the Shelby County case, the Milligan case, and other cases, to him, has drawn his hostility. And so he voted with the majority, with the white supremacists. He voted to gut Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act in the Shelby County case. Okay? And he is definitely going to vote to get rid of Section 2 in this case. Now, the Uncle Tom in Uncle Tom's Cabin, if you ever read the book, he died upholding the dignity and freedom of black people. Right? Meanwhile, Thomas uses his power to obstruct the legal enforcement of the Voting Rights Act. I mean, in the Louisiana case, the black community sought simply just representation. They weren't asking for any more than they were entitled to under the law. Yet Thomas positions himself to strike all that down and to be the one leading the way in striking it down. So what I suggest we stop doing is insulting Uncle Tom by comparing him to Uncle Clarence. In other words, the real sellout is Uncle Clarence. That is Uncle Clarence Thomas. So he can be Uncle Clarence or Uncle Thomas. But let's not insult Uncle Tom by comparing him to Clarence Thomas. Now keep in mind the stakes. If Thomas wins tomorrow, SCOTUS could start striking down majority black voting districts based on the fact that Section 2 will get gutted. All right? And the argument will be simple, as I've said, 10 times now, all because Section 2, the conservatives will say, violates the Equal Protection Clause. So, challenges to racial gerrymandering nationwide will collapse. And what Texas and other red states are now trying to do, they'll be able to do it without any sort of legal challenge. And so they can just revert back to all the stuff, or at least a lot of the stuff that they were doing prior to the Voting Rights Act, thanks to Uncle Clarence or to Uncle Thomas. Stuff like packing and cracking and voter suppression. Knowing courts will likely reject any sort of minority protective voting map districts. So black voters will lose legal recourse and representation at every level, the state level, the federal level, Supreme Court, and so on. And all of that because of Uncle Clarence or Uncle Clarence Thomas. So it's time to replace the Uncle Tom with Uncle Clarence or Uncle Clarence Thomas or Uncle Thomas. So some of you are actually probably thinking, what can we do? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there isn't much that we can do because there are 6 conservatives on the court and they have enough to get anything they want. But there's one thing we can do for the future. Listen to me carefully. Please stop what you're doing and listen to me very carefully. We must stop voting against our interests by voting for Trump and the GOP. Why do I say that? Because over 2 million black people voted for Trump in November of 2024. And when Trump won in 2016, only 59.6% of eligible black voters voted. And a whole lot of others voted for Trump. And because Trump won in 2016, he was able to put Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh on the court. And they make up 3 of the 6. And they will cast votes against Section 2. So, when you just look at this and be honest and truthful about it, it is because of black voters that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act will likely be gutted on tomorrow. They will hear oral argument tomorrow, and then they will vote shortly thereafter and will issue their opinion. That again will basically end the Voting Rights Act as we know it. All because black voters, and let me address this because some of you say, well, but why you blame black voters when white people voted for Trump in 16 and 2024 more than anybody? Well, that we expect. We expect them to do that because Trump is fighting for white people. So we expect that. But because of the Voting Rights Act, we blacks can now vote. And we have enough votes to upset whatever white voters try to do. Yet Trump and the GOP know that all they need is a certain percentage to either vote for Trump or not to vote for the Democratic nominee. And that's been their strategy. Just use some blacks, black conservatives, pro-black imposters to mislead just a percentage of black voters. That's all they need, just a percentage. Because many of you like to say, well, 92% of black women and high 80% of black men voted for Kamala in this last election. I get that. But you forget 2 things. One, most blacks did not vote. All right? Or about half of black voters didn't vote in 2024 and 2016. And as I said already, they don't need a lot of black voters voting for Trump or not voting at all or voting third party. They just need a percentage. And that's what they have been getting from 2016 to 2024, an increasing number of young black males voting for Trump or not voting, who could have voted for Kamala. And Section 2 may not be on the chopping block. And had blacks voted the right way in 2016, Section 2 definitely would not be on the chopping block because Hillary Clinton would have won and she would not have put 3 far-right judges on the bench to vote against our interests. That's the way you have to think about elections. You have to think strategic. Yet so many of our community are listening to pro-black imposters who are, for whatever reason, when I first started doing YouTube videos, they used to say, don't vote for the Democrat until we get reparations. Well, I hope that I helped shatter that stupid argument. I'm all for reparations But we're not going to stop voting until we get reparations. Because when we don't vote, we see what happened. We lose stuff. We lose very important stuff. So, until we face the reality that we've got to be more strategic, we got to stop listening to people who, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, are intentionally misleading black people. We're going to suffer more and more and more losses because we're literally helping white supremacists get in power, and their number one goal is to hurt the black community. Because they know our political power when we wield it the correct way. They know it. Let that sink in. There were enough black voters who voted for Trump or did not vote to give him victory in 2016 and 2024. And he literally thanked the black community after both elections and then went right about undermining our community. That was his gratitude. So, I'm going to keep saying this, whether people want to hear it or not, until it gets through to enough black people, especially to some of these young black men who will say, no, I'm not going that way this time. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to vote in opposition of Donald Trump. I'm not listening to these people who are telling me voting doesn't matter or not to vote for the opposition to MAGA. I've been putting up videos to show you what MAGA truly thinks about black men anyway. All right, so unfortunately, no, there's not a lot that we can do right now. This thing is going down tomorrow. But for the future, if we get the opportunity to vote again, we must vote in opposition to MAGA. That means we got to vote Democrat. I know some of you got some real bad thinking and opinions about the Democrats. I understand. I got some issues with the Democrats too. And I'm not one, by the way, nor am I a Republican. I've been both. But I'm neither one today because I have issues with both of them. But the point I've been making is when I do critical thinking, when I think strategically, I know who's in opposition to my people and who isn't. And it's the GOP. It's not the Democratic Party that gave us the Voting Rights Act, that gave us the Civil Rights Act, that gave us the Fair Housing Act, that gave us the Higher Education Act, which many of us go to school on today, go to college. I graduated college. I was from a very, very poor family. I graduated college with no debt because of Pell Grants, which Lyndon Johnson signed into law. Gave us federal judges, the most in American history, the Democratic presidents. I could go on and on and on with what the Democrats have done to help the African American community over the last 75 or 80 years. Yet some of you say they're the same, Democrat and Republican. That tells me automatically that you have been listening to disinformation, because those are the lies they tell you. And they've had a decade to tell you these lies. And I don't psych myself or lie to myself about me and others being able to refute these 10-year-old lies, because that's been a long time to get this into people's thinking. It's going to take time. Well, we got a 2026 midterm coming up, and that's my prayer. You must vote in opposition to MAGA, or Trump is going to do more damage. And if it's not come 2028, if it's not Trump, it's going to be J.D. Vance or some other MAGA person. And the pro-black imposters are going to tell you the same thing. Despite them out there now criticizing Trump, when it comes time to vote, mark my words, they're going to tell you not to vote or to vote for Trump. I promise you that. Anyway, tomorrow is a fateful day for the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 hangs in the balance. And I just want you to just remember, 3 of the people who are going to vote against it were put on the court by Donald Trump. After a lot of black folks didn't vote or voted for him. We got to take some responsibility here. All right, I'm Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video, and remember, stay woke.